part of the truck, and we just like tied a tarp over it.
Oh,
So we
wow.
was like going down the M6 to Torquay, and she has like dash cams, and it was like Jackson.
To be fair, it was strapped
in the,
down as well.
it was strapped down, but we just had like me and Jackson in the back seat, kind of just looking out the window at the tarp, flying with like all our merch underneath it, going, "Oh my god, I hope all of our merch doesn't just fly onto the motorway."
It's Kyrie. Yes, if you don't know me, get to know me, people. I am here with another rock, metal, core, deathcore group, people from the UK. I've done Exist Immortal and I've done Echelon. And people, as I keep on preaching, we're going to represent the UK and up and coming music. Not just the UK, actually, but all across the world. So I'm here with the band Vanitas. Hopefully I've got that right. With the lead vocalist, Jade, and guitarist, Mitch. Both of you, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hey, I'm Jade.
Hey, up on Mitch.
And we're Vanitas.
Amazing. No, amazing. Guys, I can't believe this is actually happening. Thank you for the opportunity again. As I keep on preaching, I do want to represent like the UK and obviously represent different type of up and coming bands out there. But the biggest thing I do want to get on, well, to start the interview actually, the biggest thing I want to start discussing about is your latest release, Wait and See. So this is an open question to both of you. I guess whoever feels like it's more comfortable to speak first. But what inspired you both, or inspired the band, to make Wait and See?
So I would say I'll speak for the sort of lyrical side, I guess, as the vocalist. But my inspiration with Wait and See was I actually wrote it not long after the release of Chaos Theory, our EP. So the turnaround from writing to recording and releasing the single was actually very, very quick. So when I wrote the song, it was sort of talking about how I felt about the release of that EP, and you know, as quite a small independent band, you feel kind of like you're throwing things at the wall for so long and not seeing results. And I guess this EP for us was the first time we kind of started to see our hard work really pay off and go, okay, people actually like this. We also was very, very lucky to open up a festival called Burn It Down Festival in Torquay.
Okay.
And it was like really sunny August bank holiday weekend. It was an amazing crowd. You know, we had like an access all areas pass, and it was kind of our first experience of playing a bigger festival. So we brought all our friends down. You know, we brought our friends down as our crew. We had like photographer, videographer, you know, people to help us. And that weekend was probably the highlight of my year.
Nice.
And I kind of wrote that song about that feeling of, wow, things are going somewhere. I'm so excited to wait and see what happens next. But then it's also a little bit about the duality of that anxiety that comes with it when you're an artist of, okay, you did this cool thing and now you've always got to wait and see what's next, and the anxiety of not knowing what's next as well. So I guess the song tries to bridge that gap between, oh my god, we just released this amazing thing, but now I've got to try and beat it next time. It's the competitive aspect of being a musician and the anxiety that comes with that, and oh no, what's going to happen next? But then also, actually, that can be quite exciting, and maybe whatever's next is very good. And there's a lyric in the chorus. It's like, all I need is a second of space to breathe. All I need is this clarity you bring to me. And what really that's written about is, you know, don't panic. I just need to take a breather, and then I'll get back on the horse, literally, in the music video. Carry on. Trust the process is going to work out. And the clarity you bring to me, that particular lyric is a bit of a nod and a reference to my friends, my family, my bandmates, and saying, you know, at the end of the day, numbers are great and being in a band's great, and I love all the like lovely comments we get, but at the end of the day, when I'm there with all my friends, with my family, having a great time, watching new music, connecting with other bands, connecting with people, that's what it's about, and that's the clarity. That's the song's about, really. So it's been more of a positive song for us, as you know, some of our other songs have been negative recently, so that one's a bit more full up.
And then, like, instrumentally speaking, it's probably one of the fastest the song has came together. Probably the second fastest.
Oh, wow.
I think our fastest is Chaos Theory, which, truth be told, the song Chaos Theory off our EP Chaos Theory, little Easter egg here, we needed another song for the EP, and it was like a month-ish before like everything had to be done, and I was like, there's just not another song yet, and I ended up shitting it out over a weekend. And I was like, okay, that's sorted. And then Wait and See kind of just happened very quickly. listening to a band called Scar Symmetry a lot.
Okay.
And I'm always trying to be like, all right, how can I like make us heavier but still maintain like a sense of melody, and like listening to Scar Symmetry a lot kind of they're like quite a proggy melodeath band, and that kind of made me be like, oh, I'm quite inspired listening to these guys at the moment, and then just silly breakdowns ensue and silly riffs that I hate myself for writing every moment.
Songwriting's a weird one because you can have some songs that just happen in a matter
Correct.
of hours, and then other songs it just takes weeks and weeks to finish. So like Wait and See was literally, I sat at my computer with the demo trying to write the vocals about 2 nights in a row, got nowhere, and I was stressing. And then the next time I sat down, I did it all within like 2 hours, and it just happened.
Yeah.
And it's so weird how that works sometimes.
And then in contrast, our song Eventum existed as like a 1.5 minute demo for like half a year before anything happened with it.
Fair. I totally get what you mean. Like the sort of things where people take forever to like focus on stuff. I spoke to a guy about this on my previous interview with like an acapella guy. He makes stuff with low bass singing, and I find it like such an interesting fact, like how when you don't try, you get exactly what you need to get done. And when you spend hours and hours and hours and hours on something, sometimes you don't get the same result. And like a lot of people look at it and go, "Oh, that's all right." But those simple things, people are like, "Oh, that's amazing." I've noticed that a lot. Like, do you feel like you got a stronger response with Wait and See because it was quite an easier process to make than you've had in your previous tracks that you've done in the past?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I guess I'd say personally, people don't really see that behind the scenes of whether it took a long time or a little time.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't really see a bigger or smaller response. I think we tend to appeal to a few different crowds, so different types of people will like different sections. So we do quite well in the sort of more power symphonic crowds with the orchestra and that sort of thing. But then, the heavier metalcore, deathcore crowds obviously love our breakdowns. So we kind of we do quite well in a few different circles. So I guess it's just finding which one to listen to, because you've got the heavier deathcore kids being like, oh, write more breakdowns, and then you've got the more kind of proggy power fans being like, oh, do more widdly solos. And I guess for us as Vanitas, it's kind of like, well, if we don't do all of it, it's not really us. So we'll always do a little bit of both, really.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
With the horse, because when I saw it, I saw the horse as like a metaphor. I'm not sure, because you mentioned about jumping back onto the horse to ride and obviously keep on pushing through because you never know what the next thing could happen. Not those exact words, but I'm like paraphrasing roughly. Was the horse like a metaphor? Because that's how I saw it. And then when the breakdown came, spoilers alert, people, just to let you know if you haven't seen the reaction, you should do. Links in the description, and it came up before this interview. But what is it? Yeah, the girl falls off during the breakdown part. So I thought, oh, is that the part where like things are being difficult in life and things obviously get bad and obviously you collapse and it doesn't really go the way it needs to go? But hopefully she picks herself back up and obviously the chorus kicks back in. Is that what the premise of the horse was? Or am I completely wrong?
You're not completely wrong. I really like that interpretation. You're very close. So I always see the horse as this idea of this big scary thing, and which is, trying to be a musician is a big scary thing at times, because it's not it's not the type of career that people encourage you go for. So it's this idea of trusting the process. That's why I kind of got the blindfold as well, and our lovely friend Rose, who's the trick rider on the horse, she has a blindfold too. So that part in the breakdown, in my eyes, is it's open to interpretation, but the way I saw it is it's that idea of, okay, I'm going for it now. I'm gonna trust the process and do this scary thing. And obviously she goes off the horse and she's dragging along the floor and she's got this blindfold. Fun fact for you, when we shot that, the horse did actually, like, the hoof whacked her in the head when she was filming that trick.
Oh.
Yeah, she was okay. She was okay.
I was about to say.
Luckily, she's a trained professional. She's done it for many years. But yeah, so when she told us that, it was a bit scary because the way we had to film it, we weren't actually present when she was filming those shots. It was like in a big field, so he was like on the other side of the field. So when I saw the first edit of the video, was the first time I saw that shot of her going off the horse, and I was watching it like, oh man, she was scared for her. But no, she's very good at what she does, and she was absolutely fine.
I will say as well, I love like hearing people like analyze and kind of look into our music videos like that.
I love it,
because at the end of the day, there was a big chunk of it that was like, hey, our mate rides horses in a really cool way. We should do a music video with that in.
Yeah.
I guess like we just find ways to tie it together afterwards, but it did sort of land at the perfect time for this song because
Oh yeah.
the idea of the horse and the blindfold and trusting the process, it did just work really well for this song lyrically too.
It's fun seeing like just like little like as I said, silly ideas of going, oh, our friend ride horse good, music video, and then being like, oh, how can we actually like make that into like a narrative sort of story thing and tie everything together?
I'll tell
Yeah.
you one thing when we was filming the video though, the solo shots you saw of us, they were filmed in a forest that was like behind the field.
Okay.
And it rained the day before. So our lovely videographer was a little bit angry when he turned up because he was like, "You told me it wasn't muddy. It's really muddy, guys. We're gonna struggle." And we're like, "No, it'll be fine. We'll make it work. It's fine." So then you've got us like there was this farmer's field, and the farmer gave us permission to film in the forest, but not to touch his crops. So it was all like shimmying along this really muddy path with like brambles and thorns and bushes to try and get this like shot. And because I was wearing all these like fishnetty things, I was just getting caught on everything, and I just had scratches everywhere.
Yeah.
But worth it.
Jackson,
So
our drummer, was like positioned next to what was like a small pond.
it was a bog.
Yeah, like a
His drum
pond
kit
thing.
was in front of a bog, and it looked very much like he was gonna fall in. So
Oh my god.
Yeah.
it was fine though.
it's
It
those
was like, oh, it's a cool spot.
yeah, it's those
Oh,
what is it? It's those difficult things that people don't know behind the scenes of how music videos are done. But the outcome's like perfect.
Yeah, it makes it
Oh, yeah,
fun.
yeah.
We've got our own little behind the scenes video coming out soon, so if you want to see all the little tidbits, that'll be there.
Nice.
Might be out when this video's. Right?
Yeah, it'd probably be
Yeah.
out by the time this video's out as well.
Yeah. Mitch, you mentioned obviously the band you were inspired by to try to keep that sort of melodicness, but still keep it harsh. Are you the type of person who tends to take the lead with creating music because you're the guitarist, or is it something you guys do collectively as a band?
To be fair, this is probably, for the most part, it tends to be me, but that's sort of a dynamic that's changing slowly with this band. Like our first EP was 100% me. Then I think the first time anyone else had a proper writing contribution was Elijah doing his solo on Eventum, and now it's slowly becoming like more of a collaborative process.
Theory
Like,
was a lot more collaborative. I always do all the vocals and lyrics. Mitch tends to be the one that spearheads all the songwriting, but the other boys are contributing a lot more, especially in the more recent releases. So,
yeah. So
our EP, Lies is mainly an Elijah song.
yeah, it's like 50-50 me and Elijah.
Yeah, EDG is
EDG
mainly
is
John.
mainly John.
Yeah.
And the song, for example, that the post second chorus before breakdown bridge riff, that's an Elijah riff.
You can sort of just tell it's an Elijah riff.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, so Elijah has a certain way when he writes his riffs.
Well, there's a big thing with this band where it's kind of like, if I'm honest, I just sort of will at like 5 a.m. in our WhatsApp chat be like, hey guys, what does everyone think of this? And just wait for people to wake up for work.
He also has a trend of giving our song names when they're in the writing process the stupidest names. So we're currently writing a song, and he's nicknamed. I don't know what it's going to be called eventually because I haven't got around to my part yet. But at the moment, it's called Midnight Peanuts because he wrote it at midnight whilst eating peanuts.
Yeah, that's what I started. Right. I needed a name.
That's about the level of brain cells that goes into him naming songs to begin with.
Well, it'll be surprising if that was the final result, and if you can make it bang with a name like that, you never know, people might like it.
Well, actually, funny thing you say there. I'll let you tell this one because I know.
About how I keep bringing joke names and
no, I'm talking about EDG.
Oh, EDG, yeah. So EDG, I have a habit of giving things a jokey demo name, and then they can either stick or form into an actual proper name.
Yeah.
So EDG is a great example of that because it's for me when John sent me John sent me a few riffs and I kind of pieced it together with other stuff, made it into EDG, and to me it sounded a lot like it was kind of inspired by a band called Strapping Young Lad.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I want to parody the name Strapping Young Lad because like I have
He famously does this.
Famously do terrible names. Like one of the first songs I ever wrote was called Nightmare Cinema because Dream Theater, Nightmare Cinema.
Fair.
Anyway,
that makes sense.
Yes, I was like, oh, okay, this song's inspired by Strapping Young Lad. What's the opposite of like a strapping young lad? An elderly dashing gentleman.
I kind of
EDG.
like that. I actually like that.
It
That's
has like no correlation to what the song's about.
Yeah, we just
So
couldn't think of a proper name
could-
for it.
we couldn't think of a name, so we thought, oh, let's shorten it to EDG, and it sounds like this cool, edgy thing that stands for something. And then for ages, everyone was trying to guess the meaning. Like, oh, what does EDG stand for? Like, no, it's just his stupid joke name.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I feel like those sort of stuff is what makes like the fun moments, like when you're in a band, and it's quite cool to have like stuff like that. And people may be like, oh my god, but what is this? Because you have that rabbit hole. What is it? What is it? What is it? And you're like, oh, and people just people like bite on it a bit. So I think it's quite cool, and I think it just brings a bit of humor to the group, and it could be your little like thing, I guess. I don't know if it's a thing you have, but I guess.
Oh yeah.
Little jokes, I guess.
I try and not do it, but like there's a few other examples in our band of just like a name that's kind of jokey in hindsight. Like, the very first song we ever put out is called Ghostly Coast, and that was inspired mostly by a band called Haunted Shores.
You can see where this is going.
Yeah, yeah.
Keep saying I'm gonna do a sequel called like Apparition Isles or something.
Oh, dear.
Well,
Terrible name.
based because we mentioned a lot about the EP, I'll go into it because that's the next question I want to go into. You mentioned Chaos Theory quite a lot. Same again, open question to both of you. By all means, whoever wants to take the lead. And the question is: the EP itself represents a savage expression of rage and desperation. Now, those are the two keywords that stood out for me: so rage and desperation. You mentioned wait and see is more positive aspect, something a bit more uplifting, and then the previous stuff you've done is kind of like darker music. So the concept of rage and desperation, like what did those words mean when building that EP? How did you connect that sort of like representation within your music?
I guess that that description just felt fitting for me because a lot of the songs are either very angry or very sad, but when they're sad, they're usually expressed through anger. So I guess pretty much everything on the EP is lyrically is being angry at a different thing, and that's kind of what ties the songs in the EP together. Really, I don't think there's. We still have. I mean, one thing we like to do a lot with Vanitas is even when we do have our very ragey, sad, angry songs, there's always a bit of hope buried in there. There's always, a message to carry on. For the most part. So, like for example, with Grey Morality, the lyrics very much discuss this anger of this idea of if you're a good person and you do right, then everything will go your way. And my anger at seeing lovely people in my life, my friends and family, just suffer horribly when they're lovely people and thinking, well, how is that fair? If they're good people and they've done right, why are they having to go through this? So, Grey Morality is this idea of, well, this idea that's sold to us about if you're just a good person and do good things, then you'll do fine. Isn't true, and the anger felt around that. That's why it's called Grey Morality. And then in contrast, for example, the second track, Lies, that was really my sort of angry feminist anthem, just being angry at this idea of... I mainly wrote it around this idea of weaponized incompetence, of, a lot of women taking on the shoulder of all the labour, just in society, like the mental labour, domestic labour, and it just being, the chorus lyrics says, you shackle all my pride, reduced to just a bride. The idea is that, like, I'm not viewed as this normal human like you. I'm just viewed as this means to labour and how tiring that can be. And yeah, just really kind of getting those emotions out through angry breakdowns and big choruses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That all kind of happened after Grey Morality got wrote, and I think Grey Morality was kind of like a mission statement for the EP, for lack of a better way of putting it. Like it was a bit heavier than like stuff we've done before, purely because like Jade had kind of started screaming in 2023, and like we didn't really like obviously we used it, but there wasn't any moments which really went, yeah, Jade screams now, and like Grey Morality literally starts. I was like, Jade needs to start with screams because like you've screamed, but you've not screamed yet in like a song, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it just was like, all right, that's darker, heavier. Let's play around with that vibe for a bit.
And that's kind of just where it led us. I guess that's what was inspiring us at the time.
Was that based on like an experience you guys have dealt with in like the band, like individually or yourself, Jade? Like that aggressive kind of aspect of it. I know you mentioned the meanings of like what the tracks represent, but is it something that you've personally wanted to express because you felt like things are going through your life, or is it just because you see friends and family, as you mentioned, or like is it something else? Like what made that rage kind of occur and express within your music?
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind speaking about this. I'd say like a lot of the inspiration for my lyrics pull from both things that have happened to my family and friends and family, and both myself as well. And I guess as much as I spearhead the lyrics, I do discuss them with the band, and I feel like we all resonate in a way with them. But I did have quite a tough teenage years myself, and had a lot of family conflicts, and that can kind of I pull on that as inspiration for some lyrics. So Queen of Nowhere is a good example of that. I was actually made homeless as a teenager when I was
Oh wow,
17.
sorry.
It's not something I've talked about in interviews before. It's okay. It's something I've since overcome, you know. But that particular song is about that experience. It's about, you know, Queen of Nowhere, because I during that year, I was just moving around from friends and family members' houses that were willing to put me up. And I was just moving around. I think I went through like 10 addresses in 8 months or something ridiculous. And to this day, it haunts me. Whenever I have to fill out a form, they're like, fill out your addresses for the last 5 years. And I'm like, so it was a rough time in my life, but I got through it, and I think it helped make me as resilient as I am now and as independent as I am now, I guess. So as horrible as it was, I mean, it sure does help write a good breakdown. I'll put it that way. And you know, as you can see, I cope through humour a lot of the time. And so the way I see it is, if I can experience things like that, come out the other side, and still make the music I love with the people I love, then hopefully there's still a hopeful message in there of, you know, it does work out. I mean, Queen of Nowhere is just quite dark, and
Yeah.
Chaos Theory sort of leads on to that of the mental health I was feeling surrounding that. But then you have got songs like EDG where you've got that hopeful chorus of hold on, there's more to life, because you know, as much as my teenage years were rough, and I mean my 20s have definitely thrown me some curveballs, but things are generally a lot better now, and even when they're not, I've got a lovely support system of people around me, and as does the rest of the band. So
Hell yeah.
yeah.
I guess the outcome
That's
is
what I
what you
think.
mentioned, like the positiveness, is what I like, you know, because you're looking at the positive aspect of it, and as you said, you've gotten to a point where you're now not in the position that you were previously, and it's similar to your song "Wait and See" because you have no idea. I bet when you were younger, you had no idea what was going to happen when you hit your 20s. So to achieve that now and today, to be where you are, yeah, amazing, amazing. Thank you for sharing it. I appreciate you opening up like that. Mitch, is there anything else you want to add for the EP? Like aspects of like the rage and stuff like that you feel like would be quite crucial to for everyone to know, the viewers out there.
Well, I always think more instrumentally than lyrically, purely because I am not the most lyrical. You ask me to write lyrics, and I'll probably write "Mary Had a Little Lamb"
You've
type
seen how
stuff.
we name songs, so
Yeah.
use that as your basis.
I guess talking about it instrumentally speaking, I've always got like kind of a thing in my head where I always just want to merge everything I love. At every like, one moment I'll be listening to like bands like Dream Theater and Periphery. Next moment I'll be listening to like old school like Decapitated, Dissection, Emperor, like a lot of old school death metal, black metal stuff. And I'm all about trying to like merge everything I can. So I guess with Jade getting more into the screaming and stuff, this EP was very much an exploration of like how heavy do I actually want this band to be, and like how could I channel that in a way that sounds like this band, but just with everything turned to 11 in terms of intensity. And it was real fun doing that, and I still think there's some like probably get a little heavier.
It's really weird how things have developed over the years as well, because like when we first wrote Chaos Theory, obviously the lyrics I wrote were quite dark, and you know, it's no secret me and Mitch are also partners. We live together. You know, we do everything together. And so when I first wrote it, he was like, "We're not playing that song live." He was like really upset by the lyrics I wrote, and we actually, not really an argument, but we kind of had a discussion of like, that's horrible. We're not playing that live. He actually made me rewrite the bridge because he said the bridge was too depressing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's The only time we've ever disagreed on lyrics, sorry.
Normally, he's pretty chill with me just going ham on the lyrics. So are the rest of the boys. Like, I'll show them my lyrics and be like, I've written about this, and, you know, I've tried to relate it to this and this. And they're like, yeah, that's great. And normally there's not really many notes on my end. But that was the first time he was like, change that bridge.
Fair. I mean,
and
better
I'm
to
like,
have the honesty than, I guess, a lie, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, well, I changed the bridge. And the thing is, though, as much as it was, like, rough at the time, since playing it live and you know, we went on our debut tour not too long ago, and since going on tour and playing it live, it's kind of, it's weird. Lyrically, it's quite a depressing song, but when we play it live, it's really fun and we're really into it. So it's actually become like a favorite of ours now.
Oh,
it's
nice.
like my second favorite song to play live, which is hilarious considering like the context it came
So
from.
it's completely like, but that's what I love about music, and that anyone can interpret it how they want to, and it can sort of grow and develop and take on new meanings as the song, you know, develops as well. So that's something I love.
It's cool because like you never know until you try it. Like people could be like, "Oh, I don't like it," give it a go, and you're like, "Oh, I really love it. It's amazing." So that's quite cool. It leads to the next question, which I want to talk about. You've mentioned it bit by bit as we've had this interview, but like your style. So like you mentioned, Mitch, that Jade, you're going into harsh vocals. So I assume that you previously didn't. Obviously, you can clarify. You can clear that up with myself during this interview, but. What is your style then? Because you get audiences or like your fans going, I want harsher. You get some of your audiences saying, I want a bit more like a melodic sound. So what would you say is Vanitas' sound in this sort of rock genre? This is an open question again. So
that's okay. I guess you may have seen on our socials, we like to tag everything as cinematic gent. And that's just kind of like our little tagline to get people kind of going, what is that? If we had to kind of put us in a category, I would, you know, I think Mitch would agree. We're a prog metal band. We're a progressive metal band. But the meaning behind cinematic gent is this idea that we want to write big epic choruses, heavy breakdowns. We want to write kind of genty riffs, inspired by like modern metal, metalcore, and prog metal. But what makes it cinematic is we always have that orchestra added to our song, and it's not really a Vanitas song without it. So, you know, we'll always have those more, I guess, theatrical, symphonic moments. We'll always have those kind of riffy, widdly, proggy moments. We'll always have those heavier breakdown sort of moments. And I guess it's the marrying of all of those things that make us us. I mean, another thing we're quite big on is, as members of the band, we're all big nerds.
It's not a bad thing.
We're all very inspired by things like JRPGs and anime and video game soundtracks, and that really kind of, you can hear that a lot in the way we write, well, the way that Mitch writes riffs and orchestra, and I'll let him take over.
I kind of always, since the first release this band ever did, our first EP, our self-titled EP, was pretty much me in this room going, all right, I want to write songs that sound like they're going to be like, you've just played like a 100-hour Final Fantasy campaign, and you're doing the last boss, and this is the song that plays during the last boss. And that's kind of like my internal mission statement for every song this band does.
Boss battle music.
Okay.
So boss battle music, but the boss is you overcoming your obstacles in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I really like just any like especially just like the Japanese RPG realm, like your Final Fantasies, your Tales of, your Personas and all that. They all have like really dramatic as fuck music. And I was like, all right, I want to do that, but in like the silly modern metal genty way.
Guys, when I read your information, like looking into your stuff, when it said Final Fantasy, I probably had the biggest smile on my face because Final Fantasy is my favorite game. Out of all the games I've ever played, it's my number one, and I was like, "Oh, sick! That's so cool." So I find that such a cool factor. Oh, sorry, say that again.
I mean, oh, sorry, go on.
I love Final Fantasy so much. Like, for a good while, we actually had the Final Fantasy main menu theme. I did an arrangement of it to start our sets.
No way.
Which was very fun.
Yeah, so we'd like walk on stage to the play.
Yeah.
I mean, we're named after Kingdom Hearts, so a lot of people kind of hear the name Vanitas and go, oh, "Where's that from?" Yeah, it's just named after the Kingdom Hearts character.
Yeah, I again, me being a massive nerd, I got into Final Fantasy through Kingdom Hearts because, for some context, Kingdom Hearts is basically what if Final Fantasy and Disney had a baby together as a series. Like, you'll have Sephiroth, facing off against Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and I love it.
Yeah, they described us as Periphery meets Disney, and that's just probably the coolest description we've had. I was very happy with it.
No, perfect. Yeah, love the whole Final Fantasy concept. I really like how you guys implement like your like hobbies and your styles and stuff like into your music. And I feel like there has to be some form of connection with music, which is going to lead to my next question, which you briefly mentioned. You guys touring. So you've recently toured in August and in September. So I just wanted to know a bit more about that in itself. So I'm trying to find where the question is again. Well, I'll just say it out. What's your concept of like touring? So is it your very first time touring during the August to September one, or have you toured before? What do you feel like is the best moments when you go on tour, like the highlights of things that you really like, and what do you find like difficult? Things obviously don't really work out when you tour. The examples like the music video when you said you had to go into the woods, like it was just not the best ideal environment when the rain was pouring the day before. So what things don't really work out? Again, open question, but I feel like Jade, you're about to lead towards that. I might say something.
I mean, if anyone knows that I can yap for England, I never shut up. So that's me. Yeah, it was our very very first tour. And you know how these things go when you're a small independent band and you don't have the most money. A tour can be anything, so obviously we just sandwiched all our dates together. Now, fun fact about our band. We're all sort of in our early, mid-20s, and up until recently, none of us drive.
Yeah.
Which makes touring very complicated, but we are very, very, very fortunate to have what we like to call the Triforce of Vanitas dads, which is John's dad, Elijah's dad, and Jackson's dad, who are all just so amazing and lovely, and they're big fans of the band, and they've basically just taxied us around the UK alongside Elijah's wonderful partner, Jodie, and our friend Rose, who was in the music video. So she was actually our lift for the tour. She taxied me and Mitch around the UK for 2 months every weekend. So we're super grateful to them because the tour just wouldn't happen without them. I'm very happy to say I have passed my driving test as of last week, so hopefully that means the next tour we do, I will actually be able to take us around there. But yeah, so the first ever tour, we was touring with a band who also we released our EP, they released their album, so we thought it was a good time to kind of tour together. And we have so much love for them. It's a band called Warlock AD.
Okay.
And they are more of a power metal, very much a power metal band, but we do kind of have a lot of overlap, so we do have some similar crowds and stuff. So we thought it was a good idea. And
if you're into your nerdy stuff, definitely check them out.
They're very nerdy.
they decide their set list by dice roll because they're D&D themed, and it's so sick.
So they play their set entirely in character. So their whole album's a concept album of like a D&D campaign, but there's a very important fact that they're also a comedy metal band. So like the best way I can describe them is like imagine Tenacious D, but as a like power metal D&D themed band.
Oh, that's great. That does sound great because
so cool.
I love Tenacious D. I don't think there's a person that doesn't like
me too.
Tenacious D. So
big Jack Black fan myself.
Yeah, I think some of the other problem, well, not problems, but some of the other things we've learned is that like things break at the most unexpected times.
Yep.
Like I've learned to bring backup guitars because on one day. So, for context, we have 8-string songs and 6-string songs. My broke a string on my 6-string, and then I had to play all the 6-string stuff on an 8-string, which was the most horrible, like... It's kind of like suddenly you've lost your arm feeling type thing, because I'm like, none of this makes sense to me, even though it's the same instrument. My brain does not compute these extra 2 strings all of a sudden. And, like... Talking about traveling, like I remember when we were in Torquay, this is just something like we've learnt that we should definitely think about in advance. Literally, we've done the festival, stayed for 2 days, and we're like, all right, it's Sunday. We just want to get back home. Everything's piled in to like our friend Rose's pickup truck.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
truck.
gonna say that. I know there's
Yeah.
an English word for it, but I'm gonna say pickup truck. And batteries died.
Oh
Yeah, as we
no.
was leaving on Sunday, the car battery died. But luckily, Elijah's partner Jodie was able to like jump start it for us. But that was just like a one way to end the trip. The other thing we didn't think about is obviously most of the tour dates weren't too long a drive, but Torquay was like the big one, and I think it was like 4 or 5 hour drive. And we also had limited cars. With the smaller gig dates, that like the closer ones, so like the Derby show, for example, we kind of just got like all the dads involved, so we had like a few cars. Whereas for Torquay, it was like, okay, we've got to fit the whole band and all the gear, and we have like a light show now, so we had like, and we run in-ears, so we've got like a rack, we've got all the guitars, we've got all the merch, we've got the lights, and we're thinking, okay, we need to get all of this and 8 people into 2 cars.
Oh
So it
wow.
was like trying to figure it out. And the only way we could fit it was that Rose had this pickup truck. And
Yeah.
so we had to put all of the band gear in the like open back part of the truck. And we just like tied a tarp over it.
Oh
So we was
wow.
like going down the M6 to Torquay, and she has like dash cams. And it was like Jackson.
To be fair, it was strapped
and
down as well.
it was strapped down, but we just had like me and Jackson in the back seat, kind of just looking out the window at the top, flying with like all our merch underneath it, going, "Oh my god, I hope all of our merch doesn't just fly onto the motorway." But it was fine, luckily in the end. But what a weekend that was.
Yeah, it looked terrifying. Like, everything was in boxes that were like strapped to the base of the back, but it was
Yeah.
still just seeing the tarp going.
You
Yeah.
could just see it. It looked like it was about to take off like a
Yeah.
parachute for most of the journey, and it's just kind of
Jeez.
staring at it out the back window, thinking, "Oh my god."
Well, I mean, the experience is the most important thing, and it's those things that you learn in touring that's going to make you guys get better when you tour on tour again. And fingers crossed, Jade, you can
Yeah.
obviously start driving them and driving your van to obviously have the opportunity. But massive props, as you said, round of applause to your family and friends putting an effort in, which is amazing. Because to find people to be like, yo, I want to make your dreams come true with you is a feeling which you can't really describe. Which is going to lead perfect to my next question is with family and friends, like people supporting you. You guys got 80K views in total. Is it, correct me if I'm wrong, is it with your EP as in total, or is it in Wait and See, even though that just come out?
Oh, I mean, I wish. Not wait and see. I think it's a combined. So, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was we had so many views on our music videos collectively, and then so many like streams. So I think last I checked, I think the EP was on like 45K stream wise, but then
Yeah.
the YouTube views collectively are like 80K plus.
Yeah, cool. So plus the views and listens then, all
Yeah.
80K plus in total. So I guess same again. I feel like both of you are answering questions like perfectly. So I'm just gonna bounce off. I'm gonna keep it like this. So I'll just open it again. Open question for both of you. How does it make you feel? Like when you see stuff like that? If correct me if I'm wrong again. Your first EP, if that's right. How does it feel like for both of you?
Yeah, so it was our sophomore EP, so it's our second one.
Ah,
But to be
cool,
fair,
cool.
like we've done a lot of growing since the first one, and like I tend to spearhead all the social media and marketing stuff, and that's been like a learning curve for me. I've just been sort of trying to learn how to do it, and like making silly TikToks all the time, and all you know how it is.
Yeah, I've actually seen it.
Um,
Yeah, your Instagram.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Honestly, what we tend to do is just we have like a day where we just batch record loads of stuff. So like everything you see us posting now, we filmed like probably a month ago.
yeah.
But we just try and keep it as true to ourselves and interesting, showing off parts of the songs. But yeah, with the views, like that's definitely the biggest numbers we've ever had. So I was hoping it would do well, of course, but I wasn't expecting it to do that well. So it was quite a shock, but a good shock.
Yeah, like it's always a bit of for lack of a better way of putting it, head fuck for me, because like every time I write something and something's finished, I'm like, this only appeals to me. I've wrote this, so it only appeals to me because I've just made it all stupidly niche to my own likings, and I'm like, oh, no one's gonna like this, but I've got to release it because that's what you do when you write music. You release it. So I was like, every time someone listens to it, I'm just like mind blown basically because it's just this is just my little nerdy song I wrote in my bedroom to me, and there's like Queen of Nowhere hitting like 25,000 on YouTube, I think it is, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's just my silly nerd song where I wanted to do all these silly things that were just bucket list ideas to me, like having a stupid rhythm intro and like having an acoustic section that sounds like it could be from an Opeth song. Like it's just the songs exist in that state to me, and it's so hard to get away from it. And every time I'm like reminded of views, I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't just my thing now.
And I think it relates back to Wait and See a lot because I was expecting to do well, but not that well. So when I kind of kept seeing the numbers climb, it filled me with both excitement and dread. I was like, this is exciting. People are actually care about our music. But then I felt this dread of like, oh my God, that means everything we do after this has to be as good, if not better than this.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. So it was kind of like a mix of emotions there. But I think when it really hit for me was when we did the tour because I was seeing people sing my lyrics back and having people come up and talk to us after the show and just like so many genuinely lovely people that like we've actually became friends with loads of people on from the tour and from other shows this year, and like they'll come to multiple shows like, oh hey, it's you, and like we've had with this one lovely guy, bless him, is literally come from Newcastle to Birmingham to Sheffield to Derby. Like he's literally come around the country and I got a hotel for the night to see our stuff. And it's just
is that Tesco bag?
no, that's Simon. And then it's just mind blowing to me because then we've got like one of our lovely fans, Ian. He literally carved us a stone like statue, I guess, like a small statue of our logo.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like it's his hobby to carve. Like it's like a hobby he
To be
does.
fair, I need to mention Tesco bag if we're going to talk.
Oh my
about
God,
it
yes.
as
So
well.
we've got a lovely guy called Carl, and we've lovingly nicknamed him Tesco Bag Carl because he always has like a little Tesco bag with him.
Oh, nice.
Who's come to a few of our shows. He came to the Bristol show. That's where we met him.
Yeah. So we
And
met.
he's incredible as well.
We met him in Bristol, and there's no secret that I am a massive Sonic the Hedgehog fan. Like if you've heard "I'm Here" off our Spotify, that's a cover from a Sonic the Hedgehog game. And I was talking to Carl, lovely Tesco bag Carl, first time we met him, and I just casually dropped that, like, Sonic fan, and he was like, oh, I get loads of signed posters from, like, horror directors, and I found out that the first Sonic movie was directed by a horror movie director, and he was like, oh, I have a signed poster somewhere, I'll bring it to you at some point. And then, like, months later, I've kind of, like, half forgot about it. He turns up at a gig and gives me, like, straight up, like, a cinema-sized poster that's signed of the Sonic movie.
Whoa! And he just
It was like...
wait. He gave that off his own like back because that's quite valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like
And I was
signed and everything. It's like as big as, like, well, yeah, it's as big as the ones you see in cinema. It's like
yeah,
it would fill a whole wall.
it's mental.
Yeah.
And to be fair, before something I wanted to mention about Wait and See before I forgot
Okay.
was with like Jade mentioning all the extra like pressure and stuff that Wait and See had. I kind of went in a bit of an opposite direction for that when writing Wait and See.
Okay.
In the sense that I tend to overcomplicate song structures and really overthink everything. And I think Wait and See was almost like the opposite of that in a sense. Like, I really like my long drawn out intros that are all dramatic, and like Wait and See doesn't have that. It's just straight in, like immediate. Just verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse again, pre-chorus again, chorus, bridge, breakdown, chorus to end. Like it's probably our simplest song structurally. And it was kind of like, I don't know, I was going like, oh, I always overthink everything and like think like every song needs like a million extra sections or can't repeat itself and stuff. And Wait and See was kind of my like fuck you to my own self in a way.
That's
that.
totally understand it. Like sometimes simplicity is always like kind of the best way forward, and you'd be surprised how much people respond to it. The like positive aspect of doing just something so like chilled, it's like you feel like, oh, all right, I haven't done a bad song. Like they actually do like it, and to carry on with that by basically stating about those key people you mentioned, someone who traveled like literally all across the UK to see you, and someone obviously like Tesco Bag. It's you do it for them, like you do
Yeah,
music
definitely.
to
Yeah.
see one person like or many people come to you, and those feelings like they're just unreal. And how I look at it, I'm not sure if you guys look at it like this, but I always look at it like if one person's like that, 10,000 people could be like that. Like if one person's gonna be like, I'm gonna travel different places to see you, then that means, guys, that we're not crazy. Like two people could do it,
Yeah,
three people could do
yeah.
it, four people, and that could turn into thousands and thousands and thousands. So it seems like things are going exactly the way it needs to go. From my
Yeah.
point of view, from what you're describing,
Yeah.
which is perfect for my next question. I want to ask you both. Is the origin of your band is to discuss about the whole. Where did you originally start from? So basically, you debuted in 2022. So I'm not sure if that's where it kind of like officially debut. That's what debut means basically. But I don't know if it was like something you were building in 2020 or 2021. And then you went bang, let's get it in 2022. But there was a period of time where you've come back because it states that you returned mature and dangerous for 2024. So my question about your origin was there a bit of a hiatus between a couple of years between 2022 and 2024? And how did you guys debut? Like how did you become what you are today?
So I
Open
guess
question.
to give like to try and abridge it a little bit because it's we have an eclectic little origin story, I'd say. But
All right, Mitch.
so this band started ultimately under a different name, which I will go into.
Cool.
Another stupid Mitch
Yeah.
creation name. So.
So I was like 18, 19, mostly a drummer. Couldn't find a band I really wanted to drum for. Started learning guitar so I could just write music I liked. That was in college. Got to university, ended up meeting Jade and a few like so our bassist and guitarist at the time was also from my college, and we were like, okay, let's form a band. Couldn't think of a name for so long, and I was like, so I've mentioned I like my jokey names.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't we just have a generic band name? And I was like, what's the most generic thing? A naming scheme that's really popular in metal is verb the noun bands. Like, Bless the Fall, Bring Me the Horizon.
Ah.
Names like that. And I was like, why don't we call ourselves Verb the Noun? And essentially there was a year and a half of us being a band called Verb the Noun. And then
With
we were like,
completely different songs, by
yeah,
the way.
completely different
Fair.
songs, all stupid names as well. And we then were like, okay, yeah, we should actually like take this seriously now. And then we disappeared. I was writing a song which was ultimately our debut called Ghostly Coast, which is like Ghostly Coast was in production for like probably like 9 months because it took me forever to actually write it.
Yeah, it's literally your baby. He still doesn't. That was the first song we ever released in 2022, and he still doesn't shut up about it. We're like,
Fair.
we
All right.
we never
Yeah.
play a live set without Ghostly Coast because
Feels too strange.
he's like, oh, we can't cut Ghostly Coast out the set. The problem we're having now is we've got more and more songs. It's like, yeah, but we've got to play the new ones, Mitch. It's like, oh gosh, no. So he's trying to balance it all.
Yeah.
Fair.
So
Fair.
Ghostly
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we debuted in is it 2022? We debuted in 2022 February with Ghostly Coast. Released a few singles and then ultimately an EP in the summer of 2022. And then 2023 we not to say we slowed down.
We did 3 singles.
We did 3 singles and then sort of all right, took like a bit of a not a hiatus, but there was like we were releasing singles like every 3 months, give or take.
Okay.
And it's like, all right, we should return with something a bit more than just, here's a cool song. And then Chaos Theory was kind of born in concept. We did Grey Morality first. Didn't really say that it was an EP yet because we were being a little teasy. We were like, here's just another cool song. And then, here's another one. And, It's an EP. Haha. We're not just dropping singles now.
I mean, this is kind of what bands do in 2024. You know, they drop a
Yeah.
few singles and, oh, look, they're all on an album or an EP. It's kind of the standard at the moment. But with the point of saying we're more mature and dangerous, where that really came about is obviously when we started Verb the Noun, we was uni students, very new. It was like my first, you know, I had school bands and things, but it was my first proper band. I was 18, which was like 19, 20. And so we decided to regroup as Vanitas in 2022 because our sound has just changed a lot as well. Verb the Now never really had the orchestra side of things. It was more just genty metalcore. So with Vanitas, we was like, okay, now we've got this new sound. We think we've improved as musicians, songwriters. We're coming to the end of uni and graduating, and we feel more mature. And our first EP was really us figuring it out all by ourselves. And with each release, we've sort of through trial and error, learned how to do things a bit better. And then in 2023, with our song Aventum, that was a bit of a turning point for us because it was when I'd first learned how to scream.
Oh,
And honestly, that was just through when I wrote Aventum. I thought, oh, it'd sound really cool if I could scream here, but I can't. So I kind of wrote a part and just forced myself to do it somehow in the studio, and then after the fact had to like learn how to do it healthily to do it live. And then from there it just sort of developed. But then it was also a turning point for the band because we got with our current manager, Dark North Management,
Dark Horse Media.
and Dark North Media. So he's a 2-in-1 deal. He's our manager, but he also is our videographer, so he films all our music videos too. And he helped us a lot to sort of just direct. We still did things our way, but he sort of directed us in terms of our releases. So when we say we return mature and dangerous with this new EP, our second EP, it's just we've done a lot of growing since the first one.
Yeah,
and we felt like
more musical elements. Jade screaming, me introducing 8-string guitars.
Yeah, we just felt a bit more confident in what we were doing.
A bit more rounded out.
There's always more to learn. There's always places to go, but I think we're very secure in our branding and our sound as a band now. Whereas with the first EP, there was still a bit of figuring it out.
No, that definitely established what you basically said. The whole like mature aspect, returning more mature and more dangerous. You've had like a bit more of a stamp within your music. You've grown. It's growth. It's what people do in it. And when you obviously are like a kid, for an example, then you turn into a teenager, turn into an adult. You're just sharpening your abilities to get better and better. So that's amazing. So I'm glad you guys have like found that sort of sound. Whether you're gonna learn even more stuff that's gonna make your sound even better, who knows? We'll wait and see. Yeah. You never know. So that's perfect to see that you guys have got that. You got a manager now, and obviously things are kicking up. What I do want to discuss, what is it also mentioning about is because you guys are from Birmingham, the support in itself of the music industry. So like Bristol, that's where I'm originally from. I feel like there are aspects that are great, but there are aspects that are not great. So I do feel like the council itself doesn't really support Bristol up and coming artists. There's a lot of talent we have in our city, but there's not a lot of support there. So what is it like in Birmingham, or is it just all the same out through like England and the UK? Like what's the support there with the genre that you guys do?
I'd say it's, generally speaking, in terms of the community that we have in Birmingham, being sort of basically the birthplace of metal, there is a lot of like pride with people in terms of us having a really active music scene. But it's interesting that you mentioned Bristol Council, because we have a lot of I don't know if it's the same down in Bristol, but we have a lot of venue closures. Like just recently, probably we had a venue pop up called the Devil's Dog, and to be honest, it kind of immediately made it stamp as like one of the best venues, and then within, I can't remember if it was within 18 or 24 months, it closed down. Purely because it's the nature of being a venue in 2024 is horrible.
Especially for grassroots venues, it's really hard. And you've got things kind of nowadays like merch cuts happening. So any artists that play bigger venues like O2 venues, they want a cut of all the merch, which for bands, that's kind of really the only way you make money now is ticket sales, merch sales for the most part. Because as we know, streaming doesn't pay very well. But what I'd say is, on a positive note, as Mitch says, with Birmingham being the birthplace of bands like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, it has a thriving metal scene. There are so many metal venues, so many metal bands, metal promoters, and kind of around the outskirts too. And I mean, I have a bit of an interesting perspective. I'm not from Birmingham originally. I'm from like Nottingham, Derby kind of way. And I actually moved to Birmingham for uni when I first started uni in 2018. And the reason I moved to Birmingham is because there wasn't really much of a scene in Nottingham or Derby. And I thought, look, if I'm going to go to uni, I want to go to uni somewhere where there is a music scene. I'm a bit too scared to go to London just yet. Where else can I go that's known for metal? And Birmingham was the most obvious choice because Birmingham's the home of metal and it's the second city. So I moved there, and obviously I must like it because I'm still here, however many years later. But yeah, the love for the Birmingham metal scene's quite a tight knit community. I mean, like most things in the music industry, everybody knows everyone. Everyone's lovely and supportive, and we've got a real community here. Like you see a lot of the same people around the same bars and venues, and they'll kind of go to all the gigs.
There's also kind of like a cool thing that a lot of people just happen to have at some point known what I like to call the old guard of metal.
Okay.
Like, you know, there's a lot of cases where, like, for example, my mother remembers seeing Black Sabbath and Judas Priest in the kind of venues we played when we first started out. Everything. And,
It's
like,
crazy to think about.
there's just so many. I think it's kind of cool and, like, a unique thing to have so many, like, examples of people who knew the people who started metal. It's kind of, like, unique. I don't know how to phrase it. It's like, you know, people talk about like Judas Priest and be like, oh, how much of a significant like impact they had. But for example, my mate's uncle just knows Judas Priest as the guy who was in a band who he dated for a bit back in like the 80s.
Like a lot of these big names are kind of started out very, very close to where we live, and a lot of the venues we play, and there's a lot of overlap there, and that's kind of really amazing to see in real time.
Yeah, it's history. That's the best way to like kind of word it. It's you're seeing an era of people like your family members, like as you said, uncles, the mums and stuff like that, taking that sort of history that they see with their own eyes and bringing it into like the history that we see today. It's the same thing's gonna happen 10 years later. Kids of kids or your children are gonna be like, oh my god, like look at this band. You'd be like, oh, but I knew them when they were like here, and I knew them when they were there. It's the sight of, it's something unspoken. It's like, you know, when you see Mother Nature happen, it's a sort of concept of like you can't write this, and it's quite cool to see it happening in real life in your eyes. So I was, to be honest, I'm being stupid. I wasn't even aware that Birmingham was like the birthplace of metal. That's probably bad on my side, being from England. But it's sick to see that's still there and that's still like strong with the venues. Yes, Mitch, you mentioned about, I'm not sure what the venues are like in Bristol. Some venues are struggling. Nightlife is not doing well. The tax that I feel like they have to pay, or the rent they have to pay at venues, are just ridiculous. So they bring the prices up on the drinks, but then people don't want to spend that, or they bring prices up with the tickets. Bristol's now just launched. I don't know when they're doing it, but they have announced that they're doing it's like, you know, when you buy a ticket off a website and there's always like an additional price you pay, like £1 fee or 59 pence. Bristol are trying to implement that, so the council's trying to do that in local venues. So when people buy stuff, instead of paying £10, they pay £11, but that £1 goes to the to help the venue itself and push the music industry. So hopefully,
the government's introduced a thing with that where like any big venues like arenas, they have to charge a little bit more, so that there is a cut of every ticket from like the O2 Arena, for example, in London. You know, a cut of.
Sorry.
that's all right. Oh, we'll finish
okay?
up. We'll finish up pretty soon, so you can rest.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
No
I know
problem.
you said half an hour, and we've just been yapping for an hour.
Yeah. Oh. One moment, then I'll carry on mine.
Water?
I've drank it already. No.
Let's get you some water.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Like for example, O2 Arena in London. There's always a percentage of every ticket now that has to go back to grassroots venues, and that is like insane that the government has allowed that to be a thing now.
So hopefully it's a positive step in the right direction for all grassroots venues and independent bands.
Hopefully, and then like UK and England in itself can just have a lot more support with music in itself and the industry. Lastly, guys, just to finish off with, is 2024. Now it's coming to the end of 2024. You've dropped a new EP. You've done a tour. Do you feel like as a band, again, another open question, you've kind of accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, or do you feel like there wasn't a set goal? We just wanted to go out, do our thing, and we've just achieved so much, which we're just so happy with. Where do you guys stand with how 2024 has gone for your band?
For me, 2024 has been more
Mind-blowing.
than mind-blowing, like more than what we expected. We knew we was doing an EP, so the goal was kind of just do the best we can with this EP. And there wasn't really kind of a set number we was going for, but we all have our little like daydreams, and we have our bucket list things, and we definitely ticked off a few of those. So, to make amazing music videos we're really happy with, to go on a tour was just to do a tour, we'd not done one before. To see that reaction. We got like a merch range was really happy with and designed some really cool items that we'd not done before. Just so many little moments, and like I said, what it all really ties back to for us is the people around us, is the fans, is the amazing other bands we've played shows with, and the fans, like we hear them singing our lyrics or traveling really far for shows and thinking, okay, this band thing is worth it,
Yeah.
So I couldn't have really asked for a better year, and just gotta, again, being cheesy, wait and see what next year brings.
Oh yeah. This year we kind of going into it just being like, don't know what's going to happen. Let's just try and do cool shit, and cool shit ensued.
Yeah, we'll just keep trying our best and writing the songs we're proud of and see where it leads us.
Well,
Yeah.
it seems like you guys have got a strong audience and support system with your fan base. Seems like you guys going in the right direction from what the movements you have been doing. Now got a management team to obviously take things even further. I always feel like if you got something like that in itself, you're probably more secure than you realize, and it just means more things are just going to happen for you, and then you can just go up the ladder. So for you to debut yourselves in 2022, for 2 years to go by to achieve what you have, you just got to be proud of yourself. So as you mentioned for both, you've kind of you're so happy of how 2024 has gone. And who knows? Yeah, let's see what 2025 holds. You've got a whole new year, and it's just going to be up and up. Guys, it's been a pleasure speaking to both of you. I really thank you for the opportunity. It's amazing that you guys obviously had this chance to take this upon myself and obviously have this interview. Is there any final words you want to say to the audience out there, to your audience, my audience? My audience is called Kyber Crew. Is there anything any final message you want to mention? Just it could be anything positive. It doesn't have to be directly to the audience, but anything both of you want to spread out to the world.
I would just want to say, hi, we've been Vanitas. Thank you so much for listening to us ramble, and I hope you have a wonderful end of the year, and be kind to yourself, give yourself a break, and things will be okay.
Yeah, likewise, hope everyone's had a good 2024. Hope 2025 is going to be very good to everyone, and just in general, go through life, live and learn, all that fun stuff.
Amazing. Mitch and Jade, thank you both, guys. This is Vanitas. I'm Kyrie, and this is the interview over. Peace.
Thank you.
In a bit.